Most people stay broke, not because they don't have talent, but because they never learn how to think like the wealthy. Everywhere you go, you see people working hard, trying their best to survive. They clock in, they clock out, and still, at the end of the month, they barely make it. They're not lazy. They're not stupid. But something is missing. What separates the few who rise to financial freedom from the rest who stay stuck isn't just effort. It's how they think. It's what they focus on. It's the choices they make every single day. The difference between being broke and becoming wealthy begins in the mind. The poor wait for change. The rich create it with intention, focus, and relentless learning. This video isn't just about money. It's about changing the way you live. I'm going to show you 10 real reasons why most people never break free, and how the top 3% use discipline, purpose, and long-term thinking to build lasting success. These lessons are clear, simple, and real. If you're ready to stop making excuses, ready to take back control of your future, then this message is for you. Not someday, not when things get better. Now. Watch closely. This could be the wake-up call you've been waiting for. Now let's dive in. Number 1. Most people spend before they even earn money. That's one of the first reasons why so many people stay broke. They think about spending before they think about saving. Before the paycheck even arrives, the money is already gone. In their minds, they've already imagined the shoes, the latest phone, the dinner out, the weekend plans. It's already spent. And once the money hits the account, it disappears within days. Nothing left. No plan. No discipline. Just a cycle that repeats every month. Most people live this way, not because they are lazy or unmotivated, but because they've never been taught to think differently. They've been raised in environments where spending is normal and saving is rare. Where looking rich is more important than building wealth. Where being broke is accepted as long as you can look like you're doing okay. The truth is, this mindset doesn't change unless you wake up and say enough. People often believe they'll save when they make more. That one day when the paycheck is bigger, things will change. But here's what I've learned. If you can't manage $100, you won't manage 1,000. And if you can't manage 1,000, forget about 10,000. It's never about the amount. It's always about the behavior. It's about the mindset behind the money. The 97% don't have a money problem. They have a thinking problem. They treat income like a temporary high. It shows up and it disappears. And the worst part is, they're not even tracking it. They don't know how much they really spend. They don't know where the money goes. All they know is that it goes fast. It's emotional. The feeling of buying something new gives a quick hit of happiness. A moment where life feels a little better. But that moment fades. And then comes the stress. The bills, the late payments, the empty bank account, the anxiety of checking the balance. And this becomes normal. This becomes life. The danger is when that emotional cycle becomes a habit. When spending becomes a way to cope, instead of a way to build. Now let's talk about the 3%. The ones who think differently. They don't spend before they earn. They plan before they earn. They decide in advance what their money is going to do. They don't let feelings make financial decisions. They build a system. When money comes in, it's already assigned to savings, to investments, to needs, to growth. Nothing is random. Nothing is reactive. They treat money with respect. They understand that if you don't tell your money where to go, it'll find its own way out. They don't wait to start saving. They start now, even if it's small. Because they know small things done with consistency become big things over time. They use money to build freedom, not to escape pain. They use it to buy time, not to show off. I've sat across from people who made 6 figures and still struggled, and I've met people who made a modest income and built wealth slowly and surely. It's not about the job. It's not about the paycheck. It's about the habits. It's about whether you've decided to stop playing the money game the way the 97% play it. Here's what the 3% understand clearly. Money is a tool, not a toy. They don't chase every new thing that flashes on a screen. They think, they pause, they ask, does this move me closer to the life I want? Or does it keep me stuck? And if it doesn't move them forward, they pass. Not because they can't afford it, but because they've learned how to say no. That word no is powerful. The 97% avoid it. They say yes to everything. Yes to every invite, every sale, every upgrade, every treat. But the 3% know that every yes to something unnecessary is a no to something important. Every dollar wasted is a dollar that could have grown, multiplied, and bought them choices later in life. Most people are trained by society to spend. From a young age, they're shown commercials, promotions, images, stories, all telling them that happiness is found in what they buy. But the 3% are not fooled by that. They don't let society program their values. They sit down, they think, and they choose what matters most. And that's the difference. The 97% react, the 3% reflect. The broke majority looks for pleasure now. The wealthy few look for peace later. And peace doesn't come from things. It comes from control, from knowing you are not at the mercy of your bills, from knowing you don't need to panic if the car breaks down or the job changes or the market shifts. Discipline is freedom. And that freedom starts with one decision to stop spending money you don't have on things you don't need for reasons you can't even explain. That's where the shift begins. That's when you start moving out of the 97%. Not when you get a raise, not when the debt is gone, but when you decide that your future is worth more than another swipe of the card. Look around and you'll see it. Most people are exhausted, not because of work, but because of stress. Financial pressure wears people down. It ruins sleep. It kills dreams. It breaks families. And the sad truth is, most of it is avoidable. Not easy, but avoidable. It starts with honesty. Honest with yourself about where the money goes. Honest about what matters most. Honest about what needs to change. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware. It's about saying, I don't want to be one of the many who spends their whole life working and still stays broke. It's about shifting from consumer to controller, from spender to saver, from follower to leader. Because the 3% don't follow the crowd. They build a different path, and you can too. It doesn't take genius. It doesn't take luck. It takes a real decision, a clear plan, a daily habit. Spend less than you earn. Track what you spend. Save before you spend. Pay yourself first. Delay what can wait. Think beyond today. These are simple things, but most people will never do them. Not because they can't, but because they won't. But if you do, if you choose discipline over distraction, purpose over pleasure, clarity over chaos, then you join the 3%, and your future will look very different from the crowd. Number 2, wealthy people think long-term. Every single day. That's one of the deepest differences between those who build wealth and those who stay stuck. Wealthy people live with the future in mind. Every choice they make, every hour they spend, every dollar they earn is part of a bigger picture. They're not chasing the next thrill or the next big thing. They're building something brick by brick, day by day. They think beyond this week, this month, even this year. They're not caught up in trying to impress others or win approval. They don't spend their lives reacting to what's happening around them. They choose their direction and move toward it on purpose. They don't look for shortcuts or quick wins. They know real progress comes from consistency, not speed. The long-term thinkers make decisions differently. When an opportunity shows up, they don't just ask, what do I get today? They ask, What does this lead to 5 years from now? When they're tired or unmotivated, they still act based on the life they're building, not the mood they're in. They trust the process. They don't need results today because they've already committed to the journey. You can feel it when you talk to them. They're focused, clear. They speak about goals, about vision, about structure. Their minds aren't filled with drama or distraction. They're thinking about their business, their family's future, their growth, their health. They're designing a life that lasts. Most people live in the moment, without direction. That's not freedom. That's chaos. They make choices today that create regret tomorrow. They sacrifice their future for comfort now, and then they wonder why nothing changes. But the wealthy don't work that way. They take actions today their future self will thank them for. They understand time is their most valuable resource, and they treat it that way. When something goes wrong, they don't panic. They adjust. They don't throw away their plan because of one bad day. They don't quit because it's hard. They stay focused because they know the cost of quitting is bigger than the discomfort of sticking with it. They've trained their mind to stay the course, even when emotions try to pull them off track. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they give up too soon. They expect results before they've earned them. They want the reward without the routine. The wealthy are different. They show up, even when it's boring. They keep going when no one's watching. They keep learning, even when no one's asking them to. That's the long-term mindset at work. They're always investing in themselves, not just in books or seminars, but in discipline, in patience, in personal standards. They know that growing as a person is the foundation of growing wealth. If you improve your mind, your finances will follow. But if you stay the same, you'll repeat the same results year after year. They think about what kind of life they want at 50, not just what kind of weekend they want at 30. They think about their kids, their legacy, their independence. That kind of thinking creates a deeper reason to act with intention. When you're driven by long-term purpose, you stop wasting time. You stop chasing trends. You start doing what matters. This is why wealthy people don't need to impress others. They're not living for likes. They're not obsessed with opinions. They're too focused on real outcome. They'd rather look simple today and be free tomorrow than look rich today and struggle forever. Their choices are built on clarity, not confusion. They also understand that setbacks are part of the process. Failure doesn't shake them because they know it's just one moment in a bigger journey. They don't measure success in days. They measure it in decades. They look at progress over time. And because of that, they stay calm under pressure. They don't overreact to every dip or delay. They keep their eyes on the horizon. Their time is managed with purpose. They don't waste hours on things that don't grow them. They're careful about who they spend time with, what they consume, and where they focus. Not because they're cold, but because they value their mission. They know every distraction today is a delay tomorrow. And here's what's powerful. Anyone can start thinking this way. You don't need to be rich to think long-term. You just need to decide your life is worth building. You need to believe that your future matters more than your comfort right now. It's a mindset, a choice, a way of seeing life that puts meaning above momentary pleasure. When others quit, you keep going. When others waste, you invest. When others panic, you prepare. That's the difference. Wealthy people train their minds to work for them. They make their thoughts serve their goals. They think about what they want their life to feel like in the future, and they act in alignment with that vision. They don't live by accident. They don't let life push them around. They build life on their terms. They understand that every day is a brick, and every brick shapes their foundation. If they don't lay the brick today, they know the wall won't be there tomorrow. That's how serious they take it. That's how focused they stay. They track their growth. Not just income, but habits. Not just results, but behavior. They're always reviewing, always refining, always reaching for better. And they don't wait for motivation. They rely on structure. They've created systems to support their focus. So even when energy dips, the direction stays clear. This kind of thinking doesn't just build wealth. It builds peace. Because when you know where you're going, you stop fearing the unknown. When you know your actions are leading somewhere meaningful, you feel stronger every day. You stop surviving and start leading your own life. You move from reacting to creating, from drifting to deciding, from hoping to doing. Number 3. Broke minds avoid discipline and chase quick pleasure. This is one of the hardest truths to accept, but one of the most important if you're serious about changing your life. The people who stay broke often don't realize they're making small decisions every day that lead them further away from freedom. It's not just about income. It's not about luck. It's not about who you know. It's about how you show up when no one's watching. It's about whether you choose structure or you choose escape. People who stay broke usually avoid doing what's uncomfortable. They avoid the grind. They avoid facing their habits. They avoid the effort required to build something real. Instead, they seek something to numb the pain. They want to feel good now. They chase what's easy: a new purchase, a night out, more entertainment, anything that keeps them from sitting down and saying, "What needs to change?" It's easier to scroll than it is to build. It's easier to snack than it is to study. It's easier to talk about goals than it is to work on them. And that's where the split begins. Discipline doesn't feel exciting. It's slow. It's silent. It's uncomfortable. But that's what builds wealth. Not just money wealth, but strength, confidence, peace of mind. Discipline is saying no when everyone else says yes. It's waking up with a plan. It's sticking to it when emotions shift. It's showing up again and again without applause. That's where the power is. And the broke mind avoids it. It runs from it. It sees discipline as punishment, when in reality, it's the greatest gift you can give yourself. When you look around, you'll notice that many people are living on impulse. They don't stop to think. They don't slow down to reflect. They react. They want relief, not result. And the world is ready to feed them distractions. But chasing pleasure doesn't build security. It builds dependence. The moment the fun is over, the problems are still there. And often they've grown worse. The wealthy mindset is built on the opposite. It delays gratification. It plans beyond the moment. It chooses challenge now to gain options later. The broke mind, on the other hand, keeps pushing things off. It always says later, or someday, but someday never shows up. Unless you make it real. You don't drift into discipline. You decide it. Every day you choose comfort over growth. You teach your mind that struggle is something to run from. But the truth is, avoiding hard work creates more pain in the long run. You can suffer now with purpose, or you can suffer later from regret. You can face discipline now, or you can live with limits later. But one way or another, there's a price. The wealthy pay it early. The broke pay it forever. You see it in how people treat their time. The broke mind wastes hours like they mean nothing. It sees time as endless. But when you value your time, you protect it. You schedule it. You use it for growth. You don't let it slip away for another dopamine hit or temporary thrill. You use your minutes to build momentum, not to escape your responsibilities. Pleasure isn't wrong, but chasing it blindly is. When it becomes your lifestyle, when it becomes your routine, it takes away your edge. It softens your drive. It rewires your brain to expect something for nothing. And before you know it, you've lost years waiting for the right moment to get serious. That's what quick pleasure steals from you. Your future. The disciplined mind understands that success doesn't come from doing what's fun. It comes from doing what's necessary. And often what's necessary isn't fun at all. It's early mornings. It's missed parties. It's quiet nights. It's repetition. It's failure. It's learning. That's where wealth is born. Not in big wins, but in small efforts repeated until they can't be ignored. It's not about being harsh or robotic. It's about being honest. Honest about what matters. Honest about what you want. Honest about what it takes to get there. People who stay broke often lie to themselves. They say things will get better without doing anything different. They say they deserve a break without earning progress. But the results never lie. Your life is a reflection of your patterns. Change the pattern, and everything else begins to shift. Discipline is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And the less you use it, the more fragile your willpower becomes. Every time you choose focus over comfort, you train your mind to follow your leadership. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build trust within. That trust becomes your confidence. That confidence becomes your momentum, and momentum makes things possible that once felt out of reach. Broke minds stay stuck because they chase temporary highs at the cost of permanent growth. They make decisions that feel good for an hour, but cost them for years. And it's not because they don't care. It's because no one taught them how to live with intention. No one taught them how to master their urges instead of being mastered by them. But that can change. It starts the moment you stop running from responsibility. It starts when you say, I don't want to just feel good today. I want to build something better tomorrow. That mindset alone separates you from the masses. Most people won't do it. They'll stay in the loop. They'll keep spending on things they don't need, avoiding work they need to do, and wondering why they're stuck. You don't have to join them. You can draw a line. You can become the kind of person who lives by design, not by default. You can take control by taking responsibility, not just in words, but in actions. You can wake up with clarity, act with purpose, and go to bed with pride. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's about being real with yourself. It's about refusing to be a prisoner of your impulses. It's about moving through resistance instead of being shaped by it. And over time, it rewires your identity. You stop being someone who waits. You become someone who builds. You stop being someone who hopes. You become someone who executes. That's the power of discipline. It's not loud. It's not glamorous. But it's the quiet force that turns average into unstoppable. The broke mind can't hold it for long, but the wealthy mind makes it a way of life. Not just in work, but in habits, in speech, in choices, in focus. And once that shift happens, the results speak for themselves. Number 4. The 3% study, money while others waste time. The way the wealthy look at money is completely different from the majority. For most people, money is just something that comes and goes. They spend their days distracted by things that don't move them forward, losing hours to activities that don't grow their knowledge or skills. Meanwhile, the small group that builds wealth takes their time seriously. They invested in understanding money, not just earning or spending it. Money isn't a mystery to them. They read about it. They ask questions. They pay attention to how it works. They study what makes money grow instead of what makes it disappear. They don't rely on luck or hope. They rely on knowledge. They know the more they learn about money, the more control they have over their future. While many people watch shows, scroll endlessly on social media, or waste hours on meaningless tasks, the wealthy use those same hours to educate themselves. They listen to podcasts, read books, watch videos, or attend seminars focused on financial wisdom. This isn't about showing off how smart they are. It's about building their foundation. Every minute spent learning is a step closer to financial freedom. Money education isn't only about numbers or math. It's about understanding how the world works. It's about seeing opportunities others miss. It's about learning how to manage risk, how to save wisely, and how to grow wealth steadily. The 3% treat learning about money like it's their job. Because in many ways, it is. The people who stay broke often treat money like a mystery they can't solve. They don't bother to learn how interest works, how debt piles up, or how investments grow. They assume money is just luck or magic. This mindset keeps them trapped in the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. Without knowledge, fear takes over, and fear stops action. Studying money means changing how you think. It means realizing that every financial decision you make shapes your life. When you decide to learn about budgeting, saving, or investing, you're actually building your confidence. That confidence becomes your power. You no longer feel lost when facing bills or opportunities. You understand the steps to take. The wealthy don't just study money once and forget about it. They make it a daily habit. They keep up with changes in the economy, new investment strategies, and ways to protect their wealth. This continuous learning keeps them ahead. They don't get caught off guard by problems because they've prepared mentally and practically. Time is their most precious resource, and they don't waste it. Instead of passing time waiting for things to happen, they make their time count by feeding their minds. They turn moments that others use for entertainment into moments of growth. This might mean reading a chapter during a commute, or listening to an educational audio during a workout. This mindset separates the 3% from everyone else. When you focus on learning about money, your decisions become smarter. You avoid common mistakes that can cost thousands of dollars. You start recognizing good opportunities that others overlook. You become proactive instead of reactive. Imagine the difference between someone who knows how to make their money work for them and someone who only works for money. The first person can create multiple streams of income. They can plan for retirement, emergencies, and future expenses without stress. The second person feels stuck, living paycheck to paycheck, always worried about what comes next. The wealthy understand that knowledge leads to freedom. That's why they keep feeding their minds, even when life gets busy. They know they can't afford to stop learning because the world is always changing. Money rules are not set in stone. What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. Staying informed is the key to adapting and winning. Most people feel overwhelmed by the idea of learning about money. They think it's too complicated or boring. But it doesn't have to be. The wealthy break down complex ideas into simple steps. They surround themselves with resources that help them grow bit by bit. They ask questions and never stop seeking answers. This continuous learning creates a positive cycle. The more they learn, the more they earn. The more they earn, the more they want to learn. It's not about greed. It's about building security. It's about creating a life where money is no longer a source of stress, but a tool for freedom. Another important part is applying what they learn. Studying money without action is wasted effort. The 3% take what they discover and put it into practice. They create budgets, they invest, they save, and they plan. Action turns knowledge into power. Without action, knowledge stays only as potential. The broken cycle of ignoring money. Education is one reason why many struggle. They wait for someone else to teach them, or for a sudden chance to make money. But chances don't come to those who aren't prepared. Preparation comes from study and practice. The wealthy understand this better than anyone. Time spent studying money is an investment that pays the highest returns. Unlike a purchase that loses value or a debt that grows, knowledge about money compounds. Each lesson learned builds on the last. Over months and years, this creates an unstoppable momentum toward financial independence. When you commit to learning about money, you change how you see yourself. You become the person who is capable of managing wealth. You start thinking about money in ways that support your goals instead of limiting them. That shift in mindset opens doors to possibilities you never thought possible. Most importantly, studying money creates peace of mind. You no longer fear your bills or the future because you have a plan. You're not reacting to emergencies. You're prepared for them. You're in control, and control over your finances is control over your life. The 3% don't just study money to get rich. They do it to gain freedom. Freedom to live without stress. Freedom to choose their path. Freedom to take care of their family. Freedom to create a legacy. That kind of freedom comes from understanding money deeply and respecting the value of time. This kind of learning is open to everyone. It doesn't matter where you start. You can begin today. Pick up a book, listen to a podcast, ask questions, make small changes. Every moment you spend growing your financial knowledge is a moment invested in a better future. Time is the great equalizer. How you use it will decide your life. The 3% use it wisely by studying money. The rest let it slip away chasing distraction. This choice makes all the difference. Number 5. Poor thinking blames others. Rich thinking takes control. When people stay stuck in their financial struggles, they often look outward for the reasons. They blame the system, their upbringing, the economy, or even other people for their lack of progress. It's easier to point fingers than to look in the mirror. This kind of thinking creates a victim mentality. It leaves them feeling powerless and waiting for a break that never comes. Rich thinking starts in a completely different place. It begins with taking responsibility for where you are right now. No matter how hard that feels, it's about recognizing that your future is shaped by your choices, not your circumstances. People who build wealth don't waste time blaming others. They focus on what they can control. They choose actions that move them forward regardless of the situation. Taking control means shifting from "why is this happening to me?" to "what can I do about this?" It means accepting that life will always have challenges, but your response to those challenges makes all the difference. When you think like the wealthy, you stop waiting for permission. You stop hoping for rescue. You take the wheel and drive. Blaming others creates frustration and helplessness. It traps people in a loop of negativity. They feel like they're stuck in a cage with no key, but that cage is often unlocked on the inside. The key is your mindset. You can choose to be a prisoner of your excuses, or you can choose to be the captain of your destiny. Control means accepting that some things are outside your power, but many things are within it. You can't change the economy overnight. You can't undo the past, but you can control how you spend your time, what skills you develop, and how you handle your money. Every day you make decisions that either bring you closer to your goals or pull you further away. People with poor thinking spend energy complaining and finding reasons why they can't succeed. That energy drains their motivation and clouds their vision. They lose sight of solutions because they're focused on problems. The rich mindset flips that script. It looks at problems as puzzles to solve, not walls to stop at. Taking control also means being honest about your habits. It means admitting when you've made mistakes and learning from them. The wealthy don't pretend to be perfect. They don't hide from their failure. Instead, they analyze what went wrong and adjust. This willingness to grow keeps them moving forward even when setbacks happen. Blame is an escape hatch from responsibility. It's a way to avoid discomfort. But growth doesn't happen in comfort zone. Growth happens when you face tough truths and commit to changing. The people who stay broke often avoid that, because it's easier to feel sorry for themselves than to do the hard work required. Rich thinking understands that control is not about controlling everything around you, but mastering yourself. It's about building discipline, focus, and persistence. These qualities are the foundation of financial success. Without control over your habits, emotions, and decisions, money will slip through your hands no matter how much you earn. When you take control, you regain your power. You stop being a victim and start being a creator. You stop reacting and start planning. You move from chaos to order. This doesn't happen overnight, but it happens with every choice you make. Control is built one decision at a time, day after day. Poor thinking leads to blaming others for financial struggles, but this only delays progress. Rich thinking says, "What can I do differently today?" It pushes you to take responsibility for your financial education, your savings, and your investments. It forces you to look for opportunities instead of excuses. The difference is mindset, but it shows in actions. People who blame others often feel stuck because they don't take the steps needed to change. Those who take control understand that the power to improve their financial life is in their hands. This knowledge brings confidence and peace, which fuels more positive actions. Taking control also means being proactive. It means creating a plan and sticking to it. It means setting goals and holding yourself accountable. Poor thinking waits for luck or external help. Rich thinking makes things happen. It creates momentum that builds on itself. Once you start moving forward, progress becomes inevitable. Blaming others also limits your growth because it keeps your mind closed. When you accept responsibility, your mind opens to possibilities. You begin to see solutions, resources, and support you never noticed before. You become resourceful instead of resentful. Financial success requires facing reality without excuses. It requires owning your situation and your future. The 3% don't spend their energy blaming the economy, bosses, or government. They focus on what they can control. They educate themselves, build habits, and take consistent action. This doesn't mean the road is easy. Taking control is hard. It means admitting mistakes and doing uncomfortable work. It means saying no to distractions and yes to priorities. It means pushing through fear and doubt. But this hard work is what separates those who stay broke from those who build wealth. The shift from blaming to controlling starts with a simple decision. You decide to stop making excuses. You decide to start taking responsibility for your financial life. You decide to be honest with yourself about where you are and where you want to go. That decision is the turning point. When you embrace control, you gain freedom. Freedom from worry, from stress, and from feeling stuck. Freedom comes when you realize you have the power to create your financial future. That power is in your choices every day. You can use it or ignore it, but it's always there. Poor thinking puts you in a cycle of frustration and disappointment. Rich thinking breaks that cycle by putting you in the driver's seat. You can decide how your story goes. You can change the ending by changing your mindset and actions. The choice is yours every single day. Taking control also means building patience. Wealth rarely comes quickly. It comes from steady work over time. When you control your thinking, you're able to endure setbacks without giving up. You keep moving forward even when progress feels slow because you understand this journey is long. Blaming others keeps you stuck in the past. Taking control moves you into the future. That future is built on action, learning, and persistence. It's built on the belief that your life is your responsibility. And when you believe that deeply, you become unstoppable. This mindset doesn't just affect money. It changes your whole life. You become someone who solves problems instead of making them bigger. You become someone who leads instead of follows. You become someone who creates instead of complains. The choice between blaming and control is a choice between a life of limits and a life of possibilities. Every moment you decide to take control, you move closer to the life you want. Every moment you blame, you stay further away. Control is the foundation of wealth. Without it, no amount of income or luck will build lasting financial security. When you take control of your thinking, your actions will follow. And your actions will lead to results that change everything. Number 6. The 3% build skills while others make excuses. Every day is a chance to grow or stay stuck. People who stay broke often talk about their problems, but rarely work on the things that would change their situation. They find reasons for why they can't start, why it's not the right time, why they're not ready. They wait for someone to motivate them, push them, or hand them something. But nothing changes when you wait. The people who build wealth take the opposite path. They focus on developing skills, even when it's uncomfortable. They invest their time in learning instead of wasting it, explaining why they're behind. When you study the habits of the top 3%, you'll notice something simple but powerful. They never stop growing. They don't rely on luck or talent. They work on themselves relentlessly. If they don't know how to do something, they find out. If they're weak in one area, they study it until it becomes a strength. While others are watching television, or scrolling on their phones. They're reading, practicing, building. They're becoming better than they were yesterday. That improvement compounds, and it shows up in their results. Excuses feel good in the short term. They take the pressure off, but they don't solve anything. Saying you're too busy or too tired doesn't teach you how to manage your money. Saying you're not smart enough doesn't teach you how to sell, lead, or create. Excuses are a dead end. Skill building, on the other hand, is the road forward. It's not glamorous. It's often repetitive, but it works. And the people who commit to it separate themselves from everyone else. No one is born with all the knowledge they need. Everyone starts somewhere. The difference is, some people take that fact as motivation to begin, and others take it as a reason to stop. The wealthy take ownership of their development. They sign up for classes. They read books. They find mentors. They make use of free resources. They don't let pride or fear stop them. They do what needs to be done regardless of how it looks to others. People with a broke mindset often focus on avoiding hard things. They tell themselves they're not ready. They believe others have some secret advantage. But in reality, most success comes from doing the boring, unexciting work of learning and practicing. It's showing up when you don't feel like it. It's watching the same tutorial over and over until you get it. It's failing, correcting, and trying again. That's how skill is built. When you build skills, you build confidence. You stop feeling stuck because you know you can adapt. You stop fearing the future because you know you have value to offer. Skills give you options. They make you more valuable in the marketplace. And when you're valuable, you earn more. That's not about being lucky. That's about being prepared. Excuses take away your power. They shift the blame and remove responsibility. But the truth is, nobody can give you success. It's something you earn by becoming someone who creates it. And to become that person, you have to be willing to do what others won't. Most people won't spend 2 hours a night learning something new. Most people won't practice after work when they're tired. Most people won't sacrifice comfort for growth. But the 3% do. That's why they win. Every skill you build pays off. Maybe not right away, but over time it adds up. The ability to communicate clearly, the discipline to manage your time, the focus to stay on task. These aren't flashy, but they separate those who move forward from those who stay stuck. Wealthy people understand that life rewards competence. If you can solve problems, lead teams, build systems, or communicate value, you will rise. If you can't, you won't. It's that direct. There's nothing holding most people back but the stories they tell themselves. Stories like "I'm not good with money," or "I'm not cut out for this." Those stories become beliefs, and those beliefs shape actions. But they're just stories. They can be changed, and they are changed the moment you decide to stop talking and start doing. Building skills doesn't mean quitting your job or turning your life upside down. It means carving out an hour to learn instead of complain. It means choosing growth over comfort. It means understanding that every minute spent building a skill is an investment in your future. Not all investments require money. Many just require commitment. You can learn anything if you're willing to stay with it. You can become more persuasive, more strategic, more capable, and when you do, you'll begin to notice opportunities you never saw before. The world doesn't hide them, it just rewards those who are ready. The difference between being ready and being left behind is often just skill. Some people say they don't have time to learn, but the truth is, everyone has time. It's just spent differently. Wealthy people trade time for growth. Others trade it for distraction. The time you use each day becomes the person you become. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up and do the work. Over time, that work changes everything. The 3% take responsibility for where they are and where they want to go. They don't wait to feel inspired. They decide, they put their head down and learn. They take feedback and adjust. They practice until it sticks. They know that the only thing standing between where they are and where they want to be is the person they haven't become yet. Excuses feel safe. Skills build strength. One holds you back. The other pulls you forward. It's a daily decision. Learn something useful or waste another day. Grow or stay the same. The choice is always there. Wealthy people choose growth. If you want to change your life, start by changing what you do with your time. Turn your excuses into actions. Pick one skill and build it until it becomes part of who you are. That's how you move forward. That's how you build wealth. That's how you leave behind the mindset that keeps most people broke. Number 7. Broke people fear failure. Winners grow through failure. Most people never reach their full potential because they're too afraid to look foolish. They're terrified of making a mistake or falling short. They treat failure like it's a permanent mark, something that defines them. But the truth is, everyone fails. What separates the broke from the successful is how they respond to it. The people who win in life do run from failure. They walk through it. They face it, learn from it, and come out stronger on the other side. They know failure is not a signal to stop. It's a sign to adjust, improve, and keep moving. When you fear failure, you live small. You stop yourself from starting. You avoid chances that could change your life. You stay stuck, not because you don't have potential, but because you don't give yourself permission to grow through the hard parts. People who stay broke often wait for the perfect moment. They want everything lined up before they begin. But that moment never comes. Life rewards action, not hesitation. Waiting doesn't protect you. It only delays what you're capable of achieving. Winners take the hit and keep going. They fall, but they get up faster. They don't sit in self-pity. They don't blame others or look for a way out. They use failure like a mirror. They look into it to see what needs to change. They treat every setback as a lesson. That mindset builds power. It gives them the strength to handle more, to grow faster, and to rise higher. You see, failure is not the end. It's part of the process. You don't become great by always getting things right. You become great by staying in the game long enough to learn what works. Broke minds see failure and stop. Wealthy minds see failure and adapt. They build mental strength by doing things that scare them. They take risks not because they're reckless, but because they believe they can handle the outcome, whatever it is. Avoiding failure creates a weak life. You start hiding from challenges. You talk yourself out of your dream. You stay in jobs you hate, routines that drain you, and situations that make you feel small. All because you fear what might happen if you try and don't make it. But what people don't realize is, there's a different kind of pain, regret. The pain of knowing you never tried. The pain of settling. And that pain never leaves. Failure passes. Regret stays. Every successful person you admire has failed more times than you've even tried. They've made mistakes, taken bad deals, lost money, faced criticism, and kept going. They didn't get there because they were perfect. They got there because they kept moving. That's how confidence is built. Not by avoiding pain, but by proving to yourself that you can rise through it. People with a broke mindset often try to play it safe. They avoid the unknown. They look for guarantee. But the only guarantee in life is that you'll face struggle. If you avoid it, you stay average. If you go through it, you become stronger. Winners are not fearless. They've just learned that fear is part of growth. They move forward even when it's uncomfortable. They trust themselves to handle the challenges that come with chasing something meaningful. It's easy to talk about dreams. It's easy to say you want to change your life. But the moment you try, you'll face obstacles. You'll face doubts, criticism, and moments where nothing seems to work. That's when most people stop. But the winners, they push harder. They stay longer. They go deeper. They build a toughness that can't be faked. And that toughness shows up when it matters. You don't have to fear failure if you believe in your ability to learn. That's the mindset shift. The moment you realize that mistakes are not final, you start to take more action. You stop hiding and start building. You become the kind of person who doesn't just survive setbacks, you grow from them. And the more you grow, the more capable you become. Growth doesn't come from talking about it. It comes from showing up when it's hard. From trying again when you feel tired. From pushing yourself past the point where you used to quit. Every time you do that, you change. You become someone who doesn't let fear dictate your choices. Someone who takes ownership of their progress. The 3% do this every day. They look for lessons in every loss. They don't waste time blaming others. They ask what they can do better. They hold themselves to a higher standard. Not because it's easy, but because it builds character. And character leads to results. You build a different life by becoming a different person. And that person is built through trials, not ease. Through setbacks, not shortcuts. Through failure, not perfection. Every great comeback begins with a breakdown. Every strong leader was once a struggling beginner. The difference is, they stayed in the fight. They didn't let fear control the outcome. They kept swinging, even when the odds were against them. Most people are afraid to look bad, afraid to be seen failing. But if you can get past that, you unlock freedom. The freedom to take risks. The freedom to try new things. The freedom to chase what really matters, without being controlled by the fear of what others might think. That's where true progress begins. Not in safety, but in courage. The truth is, fear is loud, but it's not always right. Just because something feels scary doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. In fact, that fear often points to the exact thing that will change your life. The challenge you avoid is usually the one that holds your next level. Winners know this. That's why they walk into hard things. That's why they grow faster. That's why they win more often. You don't get stronger by thinking about it. You get stronger by showing up, messing up, and showing up again. That's the real path, not the perfect one. The real one. Every failure makes you sharper. Every fall makes you wiser. If you keep moving, you can't lose. You either succeed or you grow. Both lead to progress. Both lead to a better life. Keep going. Number 8. The wealthy wake early and plan every single day. The way you begin your day shapes everything. Wealthy people don't roll out of bed, reacting to life. They wake up with purpose. They get up early because they understand time is their most valuable resource. While others are still sleeping, they're already preparing. They know the day doesn't care how you feel. It just keeps moving. So they get ahead. They don't rely on luck or hope. They start their mornings by making clear choices about what matters most. Every task, every decision, every hour has a purpose. There's something powerful about being up before the world. When it's quiet and there's no noise, your mind is clear. That's when the wealthy think through their goals. That's when they write down what needs to be done, how they'll do it, and why it matters. They don't just drift through the day. They steer it. While others hit snooze, they're already building the kind of life most people only dream about. That's not an accident. It's a habit. It's a choice made daily. Success is not about being busy. It's about being focused. Planning gives your time direction. It turns a regular day into a meaningful one. Rich minds know the difference between being active and being effective. They don't fill their schedule with random noise. They prioritize. They remove distractions. They give their energy to what moves them forward. And that starts the moment they wake up. You can feel the difference when you start the day on your terms. There's less stress. You don't feel behind. You're not racing the clock. Instead, you move with intention. That sense of control builds confidence. It builds discipline. And discipline is the root of wealth. Without it, even the best ideas fall apart. That's why the successful protect their mornings. It's their anchor. It sets the tone for everything that follows. Most people treat their mornings casually. They wake up late, rush through the basics, and dive straight into chaos. Then they wonder why they feel lost or overwhelmed. They wonder why success always feels out of reach. It's not always about talent or intelligence. Often, it comes down to habits, and the habit of rising early and planning deliberately is one of the strongest tools anyone can develop. You don't need a perfect system. You don't need a fancy planner. What you need is the decision to own your time, to stop reacting and start directing, to wake up and ask yourself, what must get done today to bring me closer to my goal? That question can change your life. And the people who ask it every morning, they're the ones building something real, not by chance, but by structure. The wealthy don't just work hard, they work smart. They don't allow the day to pull them in 10 directions. They decide in advance. They build clarity into their routine. Clarity gives them power. It removes doubt. It helps them make faster decisions. And more importantly, better ones. That's what separates those who struggle from those who thrive. Not just effort, but effort aimed at the right things. When you wake up early, you gain hours. Most people waste. Those hours compound over a year. That time becomes days of extra progress. Over a decade, that progress becomes the difference between surviving and thriving. It's not just about being up at 5 a.m., it's about using that time to move your life forward in ways that matter. You can feel the impact almost immediately when you plan your day and stick to that plan. You start to believe in yourself more. You stop second guessing. You stop getting pulled into meaningless tasks. You begin to build momentum. And momentum creates progress. Progress creates belief. Belief changes everything. Wealthy people are not lucky. They are deliberate. They choose to win every single day. And that choice starts when the alarm goes off. They get up. They prepare. They face the day with energy and focus. And because of that, they win more often than they lose. If you want a different life, you have to live differently. That means breaking out of lazy routines. That means giving up the comfort of sleeping in for the clarity of a quiet morning. It means choosing structure over chaos. Not once, every day, until it becomes who you are. There's power in consistency. When you plan every day, even when it's hard, you train yourself to take ownership. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for things to change. You take control. You build a life instead of watching one pass by. People who plan don't just work harder. They feel better. They don't carry the weight of uncertainty. They don't waste time wondering what they should do next. They've already decided. That kind of clarity builds peace. And peace is underrated. In a world full of noise and distraction, having a clear mind is one of the greatest advantages you can have. Imagine waking up every day knowing exactly where your energy should go. Imagine finishing each day with the peace of knowing you used your time well. That's not a fantasy. That's the life wealthy people create with their habits. They don't hope for structure. They build it. And that structure gives them the freedom most people never experience. When you plan your day, you respect your future. You tell yourself, my goals matter. My time matters. My life matters. That mindset changes the way you show up. It changes how you work, how you speak, how you think. You stop drifting. You start driving. Most people want success, but they live like it's optional. They want freedom, but they wake up with no plan. They want results, but they give their time away to things that don't matter. Wealthy people don't live like that. They guard their time because they know that's where the power is. Start early, plan clearly, move with purpose. That is how you build the foundation for everything you want, not through luck, through consistent, focused action every single day. That's how you create a life that rises above average. That's how you join the few who lead instead of follow. Number 9, the 97% avoid hard truth and stay blind. Most people stay broke, not because they lack opportunity, but because they refuse to face the truth. It's easier to stay comfortable than to confront what's wrong. It's easier to blame others than to admit you've made poor choices. The hard truth is uncomfortable. It stings. It shines a light on your laziness, your wasted time, your careless spending, your fear of change. But the 3%, the ones who rise above average, they don't run from the truth. They chase it, they face it, no matter how painful, because they know you can't fix what you won't face. Avoiding reality is the habit that keeps the majority stuck. They lie to themselves every day. They say they're trying, but they're not. They say they're unlucky, but they've made no real effort. They say money is evil, but they secretly want more of it. They create stories that let them off the hook, stories that protect their pride, but rob them of progress. And the longer they avoid the truth, the deeper they fall into frustration, regret, and resentment. Facing the truth doesn't feel good at first. It exposes your excuses. It shows you what you could have done but didn't. It forces you to look at your habits, your choices, and your environment with honesty. But that's the beginning of change. That's where freedom begins. The moment you stop lying to yourself is the moment your life can finally move forward. The wealthy don't need to be told the truth. They look for it. They ask hard questions. They want feedback, not flattery. They would rather hear what's wrong so they can fix it than hear what sounds nice and stay stuck. They're not afraid to hear they're falling short. They're more afraid of wasting time. That mindset creates growth. It creates power. It builds self-awareness. And self-awareness is where real change begins. When you choose to avoid truth, you choose to stay blind. You walk around with your eyes closed, hoping life will somehow improve on its own. But it never does. It gets worse. Debt grows. Health declines. Confidence drops. And you keep wondering why nothing works. But you don't stop to ask if you've been honest with yourself about your habits, your mindset, and your effort. The 97% don't like mirrors. They prefer distractions. They use entertainment to escape. They complain to feel better. But none of that creates progress. Truth is uncomfortable because it requires action. Once you know what's wrong, you're responsible for fixing it. And that weight scares people. They don't want that kind of pressure. But the 3% welcome it. They understand that pressure creates growth. They'd rather face a hard truth now than live with regret later. They know that avoiding problems never solves them. It only gives them time to grow. The average person won't sit down and ask, where am I wasting time? What do I need to stop doing? What am I pretending not to know? But the wealthy ask those questions regularly. They dig deep into themselves. They uncover their weaknesses, not to feel bad, but to get better. And because of that, they improve faster. They adapt. They learn. They evolve. They don't just talk about change. They live it. You see it in the way they respond to failure. They don't hide from it. They study it. They don't get defensive when they're criticized. They listen. They don't protect their ego. They protect their future. That's what makes them strong. That's what makes them wise. And it's available to anyone willing to let go of their pride and tell themselves the truth. But most won't do that. They stay in denial. They ignore the signs. They waste years blaming the economy, their parents, their bosses, or the government. They don't want to hear that their choices are the problem. They'd rather keep believing life is unfair. That belief gives them comfort, but takes away their power. And without power, there's no wealth. Wealthy people don't hope life will be easy. They train for it to be hard. They don't pretend their habits are working when they're not. They don't lie to themselves about where their time goes. They know exactly how many hours they spend working, learning, growing. They track their progress. They ask for feedback. They want the truth, even when it hurts, because the truth is the path forward. Being blind to your problems doesn't make them disappear. It makes them grow in silence. The longer you avoid the truth, the harder it becomes to fix. But every day you face it, you become stronger. You learn more. You gain clarity. You take back control. That's what the 3% do. They stop pretending and start preparing. They replace excuses with strategy. They stop looking for sympathy and start building solutions. Facing the truth takes courage. It takes humility. It means admitting you don't have it all together. It means accepting that your current life is a result of your past choices. But it also means you can build a better future with better choices. It means you're not stuck. You're just uninformed or undisciplined. And both of those can be changed. But you have to be willing to sit down in silence and ask, what am I doing wrong? What don't I know yet? What have I been avoiding? Those questions will shake you. They'll humble you, but they'll also set you free. They'll give you direction. They'll give you power. Because once you know the truth, you can do something about it. And that's the difference. The 3% act on the truth. The 97% hide from it. One group grows. The other stays stuck. One becomes stronger. The other becomes bitter. One builds wealth. The other watches from the sidelines. It's not about talent or intelligence. It's about whether you have the courage to face what's real and the discipline to do something about it. Number 10, the rich invest in growth. The poor stay stuck. The biggest difference between those who create wealth and those who stay in survival mode is their relationship with growth. Growth is not something the rich wait for. It's something they plan for, push for, and invest in. They don't stumble into success. They build it intentionally, brick by brick, with time, focus, and consistent personal development. They spend their money and their energy becoming smarter, stronger, and more capable. Not just once, but constantly. Meanwhile, the poor mindset resists change. It avoids new challenges. It clings to comfort. And by doing that, it stays trapped in the same cycle, year after year. Wealthy individuals do not think twice about spending on their mind. Courses, coaching, books, seminars. They see these as tools, not luxuries. They know that growing themselves means growing their ability to earn, lead, and succeed. They don't see learning as a phase. They see it as a lifestyle. That's because they understand something the average person doesn't. Your income will never grow faster than you do. If your thinking stays small, your life stays small. If your habits don't evolve, your opportunities won't either. But poor thinking always wants something for nothing. It waits for life to get better without ever putting in the work to improve. It believes growth is something that happens by luck or by chance or when the circumstances are right. It avoids any investment in personal development because it doesn't see the point. It thinks short term. It doesn't ask, how can I grow? It asks, why should I try? That attitude keeps people locked in place. And not just financially, but mentally, emotionally. They become stuck, not just in results, but in identity. Rich thinkers, on the other hand, are always looking for a way to grow. They're always searching for better answers, smarter systems, new skills. They treat every experience like a lesson, every setback like an education. They don't invest in growth only when it's convenient. They make it a priority, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable, because that's how they separate themselves from the average. They know that every skill they build, every idea they sharpen, every insight they gain adds real value to who they are. And that value shows up in their result. Those who stay broke often look at the cost of investing in themselves and say that's too expensive. But what they fail to realize is that staying stuck is more expensive. Lost time is expensive. Missed opportunities are expensive. Living below your potential is expensive. But you won't see the cost of that right away. It accumulates slowly, day by day, year by year, while they keep choosing distraction over education, comfort over challenge, entertainment over improvement. The rich don't let price tags decide their future. They let priorities decide. They ask, what will this skill bring me over the next 5 years? How can this knowledge change my thinking and change my outcomes? And then they act. They don't waste time hesitating over decisions that will make them better. They act fast when it comes to their own improvement, because they know the faster they grow, the faster their results grow. You won't hear wealthy people say, "I already know enough." That sentence doesn't exist in their world. They are students for life. They are open to new ideas, new tools, new strategies. They read. They listen. They study. They surround themselves with people who know more than them. That's how they move forward. That's how they keep winning. Not by guessing, but by learning. Not by waiting, but by growing. And when they make a mistake, they don't let it define them. They learn from it. They ask, what did this teach me? How can I use this to make better decisions next time? They don't see failure as a stop sign. They see it as part of the path. And because of that mindset, they're not afraid to try, to experiment, to stretch beyond what they already know. Growth is the goal. Every day, in every way. But poor thinking resists all that. It fears the unknown. It wants to stay in the zone of what's easy and what's safe. It avoids reading. It avoids coaching. It avoids anything that might shake up the way it thinks. It holds tight to the same routines, the same conversations, the same patterns, and it gets the same results. No surprise, no growth, no progress. Wealth builders don't want to stay the same. They're hungry to evolve. They're hungry to get sharper, faster, clearer. They use their mornings to learn. They use their evenings to reflect. They make time for what matters, not just to make more money, but to become better people, to become wiser leaders, to become stronger thinkers. Growth isn't just a tool for income. It's a tool for impact. It makes them more valuable, more respected, more prepared for life's challenges. Poor thinking is always waiting for motivation. Rich thinking creates momentum. One group waits to feel like growing. The other grows because it's who they've chosen to become. You'll see it in how they speak, how they act, how they plan. Growth shows in the details, in the confidence they carry, in the clarity of their vision, in the strength of their decisions. And it all comes back to that choice, to invest in themselves, instead of staying stuck in the same cycle. If you want a better life, you must become better. If you want higher results, you must operate from a higher level of thinking. And the only way to do that is to commit to your own development, like your future depends on it. Because it does. What you don't know is costing you. The skills you don't have are limiting you. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you'll stop avoiding growth and start building a foundation for real success. Rich people are not waiting for someone to save them. They're not looking for shortcuts. They're building themselves daily, knowing that the return will come. The poor mindset keeps waiting, keeps hoping, keeps avoiding. One path leads to progress. The other leads to disappointment. The question is, which one are you walking right now?